Even when I used to work out all the time, when I used to work out, when I used to work out.
Ever have protein powder? Yeah, I used to have it. When I used to work out, I used to take protein powders.
I myself, I jerk off at least twice a day. Wow. Once in the morning, right after I work out, and then once right after lunch.
Well, holy hell. I know this is going to sound like no big deal, but big ups to anyone that watched, commented, shared, or liked my last video. I tripled my subscribers. That means from like 8 to 24. But I'm not doing this for subs, but it told me that there's at least a small populace out there who is halfway interested in my
I shouldn't have said that. Stupid idiot! Not retard. You never use the word retard anymore in a bad way.
Yeah, so there's a populace that's halfway interested in my special takes. So before we get started with the video, to anyone who is watching before or in the future, sincerely, from the bottom of my heart, thank you. Okay, mushy stuff is done. Now, this is my first foray into non-workout related critique, but I had to offer my take on this because, my God, what is Phil doing?
So for those of you who don't know,
Phil and Mike Clum, I'm going with Clum, are making a documentary. Let's see what Phil has to say about this. By the way, big ups to SnortHogan for the clip. Appreciate your willingness to let me pilfer off your hard work. Much love.
Well, let me tell you something, brother.
Hogan.
Drip. Snort.
I got the drip. Go. We're going to get to the topic at hand, but before we get to the topic at hand, all right, I just want to say thank you to everyone. I appreciate you all. We're going to now get into the topic everyone's been wanting to hear. I believe Ponage says, why don't you do shout-outs before we get to the topic? Literally, I have one tip so far. That's it. There's nothing really to shout out.
Then it would have taken 2 seconds to say thank you, but go on.
So I think we will get into the topic now that everyone wants to hear about. All right? And then we'll get to shout-outs and Q&A after that. All right? All right. So, ladies and gentlemen, here's the deal. Because the rumors have already hit the internet. There's already rumblings. There's already information out there. So I am here to basically clarify everything, to clear the air, and to let you know exactly what is going on. All right? Last year was a very drama-filled, nonsensical year for me, against my will and against my wishes.
Nope, gotta call that out. We'll get more into this later because he's gonna rant about side-scrollers, but Phil, you bring up drama, and then you say you want to stay out of drama. Let me put it in terms you understand. Yes, I'm blatantly stealing this from Atlas the Bookkeeper, but imagine you had a sandwich shop, and you never wanted your customers to bring up Subway, but you constantly ran ads about how much better you are than Subway. You're inviting your customers to talk about Subway, you dunce!
Correct? I think we can all agree. Last year, there was a lot of very negative talk about me on the internet, in some cases from really big YouTubers, right? Now, in some cases, being very transparent here, when I got criticized by Moist Critical, and he was like, dude, I can't believe he's saying the things he's saying on his streams to his viewers about income and stuff like that. It seems very, disrespectful. He doesn't seem like he has any gratitude. You can't say that kind of stuff. That resonated with me. It struck a chord, correct? And I agreed with him after watching myself back. This is from like the fall of 2022, okay? No, the reason I'm ignoring this dumb question is because I already answered it yesterday. I literally answered this question yesterday on a stream, and now there's 10 more people asking the same question like I didn't answer it yesterday. So I'm just ignoring you all. You're annoying. You're doing it on purpose. You're spamming my stream with the dumb question, so I'm just not going to answer it. Is it possible you didn't hear my answer? Yeah, but the fact that you sit here and you spam the same question for an hour is really dumb. It would have been one thing if you asked it once or twice, maybe I would have answered it. But when you spam the chat 20, 30 times with the same question, I'm just going to ignore you because you're dumb. I mean, let's be honest. You're lucky I didn't time you out and saying, be a jerk. Because I could have. I already told you I'm in a bad mood. My back hurts. Did you miss that part too?
Yes, my children, DSP has learned the error of his ways. Unless his back hurts, or tips are slow, or the toilet breaks, or the car gets a tire stolen, or there are contractors outside, or his internet is slow, or Street Fighter 6 has lag, or drops his inputs, or if you use Ken. But those reasons are justified to be a completely toxic asshole who would get pounded into the ground if he acted that way in public. Totally justifiable.
After watching myself back, that stuff, I was like, he's right. He's absolutely right. I sometimes get so full of emotion, whether it's fear, because of finances and stuff like that, or it could be many different things. Anger when I'm playing Street Fighters, all these things. Whenever I get full of emotion, I tend to just go off the cuff and say things that I probably should not publicly say, right? And I should be called out for it, rightfully. However, I felt that at that point, there were too many people who had only heard the negative and had no idea about the positive about me.
Phil, what positive? You just explained that you couldn't control your emotions based on fear of finances, anger, and just generic emotion. A literal child acts in this manner. You're a 41-year-old, quote, mature adult with a business degree, end quote, and trust me, I come from a hot-headed bloodline. I know about rage, which means you, especially you, because you're public-facing, can never let your emotions get the better of you. But you let it happen all the time and want people to act like it never happened or that you were a victim of circumstance. It's manipulation and narcissism 101.
Obviously, if I'm here after 15 years and I have a community who watches me every day, likes my content and supports it, I'm doing something right, all right? I wouldn't still be here if I wasn't doing something right. There's people who are here for a good, positive reason.
I don't know how Atlas or others do it. After this, I'm going to have to skip to the meat and potatoes, or this video is going to be 3 hours long. But to his statements, never mistake activity with achievement. Yes, Phil, you've been on the internet for 15 years. Your views, however, are in the hundreds. Yes, I know, I myself get like 100 views, but then again, I haven't been here for 15 years. And, Phil, you have an army of people that have thousands of viewers actively despising you. That is an achievement. It's being obnoxious. And to your good, positive reason, if chat isn't telling you how great you are or telling you what to do in a game, you get visibly upset and lash out. Again, like a literal child. The good, positive reason you're talking about is when people give you money, subscribers, or super chats. From this point forward, I'm going to grab clips from SnortHogan's video so you don't have to suffer through the same story about Phil being victimized by detractors and never given a fair shake. And in summary, he went on side-scrollers. That went amazingly for detractors, and he's been butthurt about it ever since. Several others have covered how Phil has been a hypocrite when it comes to the interview, so I'm going to skip that. Let's just get to the Mike Clum announcement.
Basically, all right, I got contacted by someone who is a neutral party, someone who does not stand to benefit by actually portraying me in an incredibly negative way, because it basically, let me put it this way. If you're someone who wants to actually make real content, if you're not someone who's a drama hound, if you're not someone who is again, a Keemstar, a review tech, someone who all of your content is based on making someone look bad, correct?
Phil, you make yourself look bad. You realize that the perception shift that you're talking about, where you're just this stand-up guy and morons on the internet have skewed all the data to make you look bad, is the caliber of conspiracy reserved for cheap action movies or romance novels? I'll give you an example, Phil. I had a previous neighbor. Her dog jumped my fence, fought my dogs, and caused severe damage to my German Shepherd's ear. He's fine now, by the way. Her dog, however, was a banned breed in my jurisdiction, and she got it taken away. A few months later, she complained about my friend parking in the street in front of her house, which was completely legal. I knew that this was going to be drama, so I had her trespassed from my house, meaning that a law enforcement officer came over to her and said, "Hey, you're being officially trespassed. You can't set foot on his property." And that was the end of it. After she was trespassed, I went with my stepdaughter to raise money for her softball team in the town over, and that was that. This psycho hose beast, big ups, Wayne's World, proceeds to call the cops back and say that once they left from trespassing her, I came to her door, pounded so hard it seemed like the door was going to come off its hinges, and punched her in the mouth. Oh, and also I left a dead squirrel on her porch. Mind you, I was 20 miles away when all of this allegedly happened. Now stay with me, Phil, because this is where it gets important. If I had just said, "Oh, that's just her being angry or upset," or otherwise insulted her, that would have gotten me nowhere. See, instead, I used every piece of proof at my disposal. I gave law enforcement officers my location history, my girlfriend's Ring camera footage showing me in a different place than what she said I was when I allegedly hit her, etc., etc. In fact, I had so much I levied charges against her for making a false statement to police. So you see, Phil, the internet or detractors aren't making you look bad. You're making yourself look bad when you refuse to show your WWE account or explain where you got a $5,000 figure for business expenses. Christ, to quote a meme from SpongeBob, how many times do we have to teach you this lesson, old man?
So, basically, I was contacted by Mike Clum, who recently did a documentary on Boogie. And before everyone freaks out about this, because I know a lot of people saw the Boogie documentary and were like, wow, that documentary was not positive. That documentary was very negative. It shows all the weaknesses of Boogie, all his shortcomings, the fact that he basically pissed his life away, all his money away, that he's a toxic guy who falls into drama and he has all these issues. You're right. But that's what they wanted to do with that documentary, you understand? That's actually what they wanted to portray in that documentary. That was the whole point.
Big ups to Mike Clum if he sold this story to Phil. I have a bridge in New York for him to try next.
To show that side of his life, which I guess they felt had never been really revealed before. That's exactly what they were going for, okay? I was contacted by Mike, and he says, basically, this is fascinating. There's people out there who want to see a documentary about you, but he didn't know that much about me, okay? So, by the way, and just for the record, this was months ago. This was not yesterday. This was months ago, okay, where we actually began talking behind the scenes about stuff like this. And basically, through a series of conversations, okay, that I had with this guy, as I explained my story to him, he was basically like, so this is completely different from Boogie. Yeah, it's not even close. My life is nothing like his. I'm not in the situation he's in. You know, in my opinion, and this is my opinion, and other people can disagree, I feel like in my position is a much better position than his.
Gonna disagree, Phil. Not because he's better off financially or anything, but I know of a few times, at least I think, where Boogie has asked for help or actively tried to make himself better. And I'm not a Boogie expert by any means, and I haven't seen the documentary, but if I'm hearing right, when he fails, he's otherwise made himself a victim or otherwise blamed people, which is why he's still a lolcow. But he has some semblance of self-awareness. And Phil, some is more than absolute fucking zero.
You know what I mean? Like him, he's in horrible health. Financially, he's distraught. He can't make ends meet. He's desperate, which is why he's on things like this lolcow show where he's getting on his hands and knees and being mistreated by Keemstar to make money. He's in a real desperate way, right? That's very much not the case, okay? With me, I have a successful business. I enjoy coming to stream with you guys every day. I love what I do for a living. I'm making it happen, right? I'm getting out of a horrible financial position in my life, which happened already, and I'm climbing out of it. It's slow progress, but it's definitely progress, right? My story is basically that even though I've made all of these improvements over the years, and I am not representative of what people make me out to be anymore. Maybe one day, 10, 15 years ago, I was really bad. I was obstinate, I was stubborn, I was stupid, I said and did awful things, right?
That wasn't 10 or 15 years ago, Phil. That's your entire legacy. I don't know how you don't realize this yet.
And I got away with it, basically. And now here we are 15 years later, and I'm still able to run a business, albeit a much smaller scale business than what I used to do. But I'm still popular, I still have a fan base, and people still talk about me, right? The problem is constant misrepresentation. And you might say, well, I don't get it because you already have addressed everything. You're right. I have addressed all of the bullshit and nonsense out there. However, I addressed it here, right? And no one listens to me when I say it on my own content.
These must be those delusions of grandeur you always mention. You're not popular. You're infamous. And in addressing of the bullshit on your podcast, it doesn't pass the most basic of smell tests, Phil. That's why no one believes you. You could have Walter Cronkite, Christ, I'm aging myself, tell your lame-ass excuses, and they still wouldn't hold up.
Okay? And so, after having talked to Mike, all right, the idea that we came up with was to do a documentary that's going to, for the first time ever, and I'm going to say this, likely for the last time ever, cover my actual real story. Me growing up, what it was like, right? How I got into games, you know? What it was like when I was a kid. Asked my parents, you know, what was it like raising Phil and stuff like that, right?
So he's going to let Mike talk to his parents, which, holy shit, I hope you can hear the disappointment in their speech when he interviews them. Not because I want them to feel bad about Phil, but because I want the internet to be able to tell Phil, this isn't what you think it is. You've damaged your relationship with your parents. So maybe he can feel some form of regret. And what's this about hearing how he got into gaming? You're a male. Games appeal to most males statistically. So that's that. And then what? You gonna have your dad tell the helicopter story? So if you don't know, Phil used to work at a helicopter.
Going through the arcade days, going through the Street Fighter days, growing up in arcades, and how it became this kind of, how do they say, almost fraternity culture. And shit talking was encouraged, right? And how that carried into my competitive Street Fighter career in the 2000s and how it became an innate part of who I was for a very long time. How eventually, after having a back injury and deciding to quit competitive Street Fighter, how that turned into a job becoming a YouTuber, right? And how I somehow got this popularity doing content on YouTube that not very many people were doing, right? The improv commentary style.
Let me spoil the documentary. Phil liked to game. Phil traveled and did tourneys. The people in the FGC weren't talking shit as part of a fraternal bond. They bonded over hating you and talking shit to you. Phil made a YouTube and had a chance to strike while the iron was hot. He didn't and became known as a raging asshole. He went full-time on YouTube, lost AdSense, and has been tanking ever since. His improv style is because he's too lazy to script. It's not because he's good. Objectively, he sucks.
And basically making it popular, right? I was the innovator of the video game playthrough back in the day. I was. But most people won't give me credit for that because they wanted, oh, it was this person or this person. I was the person who made it mainstream popular on YouTube. And then everyone else decided to run with it and change it up and do it differently. But I was the guy who made that improv commentary style popular.
Sheer fucking hubris.
My life is not a sob story. It's interesting. People have said, would you ever write an autobiography or whatever?
Why the fuck you lying? Why you always lying? Oh my god. Stop fucking lying.
Ever. Maybe one day I would, but I never really thought about that. And then when I start talking to Mike, he's like, no, your story is interesting. The more I hear, the more I'm hooked. I want to hear more things about you. You know, about how this journey happened or whatever.
Oh, right. The bait. The bait for Phil. The bait chosen especially for Phil. Phil's bait.
I've never gotten a fair shake before. Never. You're right. Every single person has screwed me over. Whoever tried to do something, right? So that's the point. Now, here's the thing. Does this mean that there's no one going to be involved negatively? Of course not. They're going to be in there. Everyone's going to be in this thing. I mean it. Everyone who's is going to be in this damn thing. It's going to be entertaining for that very reason. But here's the thing. I get to respond to all the bullshit, right?
Adam Krigler had no idea who you were prior to the interview and wanted to punch you after your interview. What more of a fair shake do you want? For that matter, knowing what is out there, I cannot wrap my head around what control DSP thinks he's going to have that Mike would put out a product that doesn't tell the actual story of DSP. The rest of the video, while there may be some gems, so go watch SnortHogan, is pretty much more whining about side-scrollers, more delusions of grandeur about Phil and his life, and how he's a victim, having done nothing wrong and everything correct, so I won't subject you to that. But yeah, that's going to do it for this one. This is my longest one yet, so let me know if you like it, hate it, want shorter form, longer form, or me to just go back to providing commentary on fitness-related Phil dumbassery. Again, thanks to Atlas the Bookkeeper. Go check him out. He gave me the inspiration/style of content. And SnortHogan, of course, for the clips. I am truly in both of your debt. So till next time, swole is the goal for a troll. Lift heavy, eat clean. Have a good one.